After 20 years of heartbreak, a life-changing knock revealed amazing truths and unexpected choices. Jamie had just settled into her routine when it happened, a knock on the door that reverberated through her very soul. It was the kind of sound that could change everything. She wiped her hands on her apron, her heart pounding with curiosity. When she opened the door, standing before her was Uncle Phil, a figure from her past wrapped in shadows, a retiree dressed in worn jeans and an old army jacket. "Jamie," he said, his voice a mix of wonder and regret. It had been 20 years since he'd walked away from their family, leaving questions hanging in the air like the autumn leaves fluttering around them. She didn't know whether to embrace him or slam the door shut. But the warmth of his presence tugged at something inside her. They both sat at her cluttered kitchen table, the scent of fading coffee and fried eggs filling the air. Memories rushed out like the wind, swirling between them. She remembered stories of bravery, dreams abandoned, and promises never kept, leaving a bittersweet taste in her mouth. "I've missed you," he said, his eyes glistening. She felt that ache deep in her chest, the longing for family, for connection, for understanding. "Why did you leave?" she asked, her voice trembling. Uncertainty hung in the air as he opened up about his battles, both out in the world and within himself. His stories of courage and sacrifice lit a spark in her. Maybe he was the father figure she had desperately needed. The sacrifices he made echoed in her own struggles as a single mother. Together they held untold truths. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. A vision began to form as Jamie listened. She contemplated a community center, a place where kids could escape the rusting factories filled with ghostly memories. She could feel the pulse of hope thrumming in her veins. This center would feed not just their bodies but their spirits too. Yet with the vision came the doubts. Whispers of disapproval from neighbors seeped into her mind. What does she know? They'd say. Was she just another waitress dreaming too big? But in the echo of her uncle's voice she found her fire. She could rewrite the narrative, stand up to the skepticism, and begin the journey of transformation. Forgiveness tugged at her heart, daring her to forgive the past, both her uncle's and her own. As she laid plans, the local buzz grew louder, a cacophony of skepticism mixed with curiosity. "Who does she think she is?" they asked, their eyes narrowing, judgment so heavy it felt like a weight on her shoulders. Yet there was a spark of defiance flickering in her, a promise to reclaim her worth. With each step forward, Jamie found herself at a crossroads, where every choice weighed heavy as lead. Could she break the chains of doubt that held her hostage? Would she stand tall, not just for herself but for her children, her dreams, her community? A storm was brewing around her, and she felt the force of change pulling her deeper into the eye of it. Courage surged within. It was time to find out just how far she could go. The battle was only beginning. Jamie felt the weight of the world on her shoulders. The days following Uncle Phil's visit became a blur. Thoughts of the community center filled her nights, dreams of laughter and connection painting bright colors over her faded memories. But the approval of her neighbors loomed like dark clouds. They had always whispered about her choices, her life, and now they would undoubtedly question her even more. She found herself driving through the old neighborhood, past the rusted factories, reminders of dreams turned to dust. Children played in the streets, their laughter echoing like a beacon. But behind each joyful shout was a stark reminder. There was nowhere safe for them to go, no space for creativity, no haven from the chaos of their world. Inspiration knotted in her stomach, determination settling into her bones. Her mind raced with plans as she approached the old town hall. As a kid, Jamie would sometimes sneak in, dreaming of grandeur, of sharing those lofty tales of hope in the same spot where she now stood hesitantly. This was the perfect location for the center. Yet she hesitated. Who was she to bring change? Plans skittered away like autumn leaves in the wind whenever doubt crept in. What if they laughed? What if she failed? Taking a deep breath, she pushed the door open, the smell of stale air mixed with a hint of aged wood assailing her senses. The inside was dim, but she could see traces of life, dusty banners hanging on the walls, empty chairs waiting for stories to fill them. Jamie's heart raced as she envisioned it filled with kids, walls echoing with laughter. As her fingers brushed against the worn wooden table, a thought struck her. What if she held an open forum? A gathering where she could share her vision and invite the community to contribute their ideas, make them stakeholders in the project? The more she thought about it, the more it ignited something within her. Let us do this, she whispered to herself, fueled by the flicker of hope her uncle had awakened. Jamie darted back home, her heart pounding with excitement. She scribbled down every thought, every flicker of inspiration. Flyers flew off her printer, colorful invitations beckoning neighbors to come share their dreams for the youth. But doubt lurked in the corners, a hesitant whisper warning her it could all go wrong. That first night, as she fell asleep by the warmth of her old quilt, that whisper turned to a scream. What if they don't come? Or worse, what if they do? The following days sporadically drew nearer. Jamie's anticipation battled against her fears, feelings rising like a tide threatening to break. She could feel every heartbeat echoing in her chest as she prepared for the meeting. With each passing hour, conflicting emotions brewed inside her, the hope of community clashing with the fear of isolation. The night arrived, and the room felt too small, a prison filled with her insecurities. Chairs lined up, a crescent of faces entering, their expressions an unpredictable tapestry. She cleared her throat, each sound a reminder of her vulnerability. I'm here to talk about a community center. Her voice shook, her palms clammy. As she spoke, she glanced around, meeting the curious eyes that darted between her and one another. Some looked intrigued, others skeptical. It was the moment she had worked for, but doubt surged again, whispering chilling thoughts. What if they laughed? What if this was another dream destined to crumble? Just as she was ready to back down, a hand shot up from the back of the room. What's in it for the kids? An edge of skepticism colored the voice. Her breath itched, but there was something different about it, not aggression, but genuine care. And in that instant, she realized she wasn't just fighting for acceptance, she was building a bridge. Buttoning up her courage, she smiled. Everything if we do it together. The room shifted, tension loosening as murmurs began. Jamie had taken the first step into the unknown, and, as they looked at her, the embers of something new flickered to life. She could feel hope surfacing, but would it be enough to ignite a flame of change in her community? The answer danced just out of reach, waiting to unfold. The murmurs in the room began to swell like an approaching storm. Jamie could feel a weight lift from her chest, replaced by a spark of possibility. The faces around her shifted from skepticism to curiosity, a soft chorus of whispers bouncing off the walls. She took a deep breath, her mind racing with the words she wanted to say, the vision she needed to share. I believe every child deserves a safe space, she continued, her voice gaining strength. A place to explore their creativity, meet friends, and learn. A community center can be a hub of hope, a refuge from the chaos. She could see some nodding along, their eyes brightening as her passion spilled out. Then, a woman stood up, her brow furrowed. And what will it take to make this happen? Her voice was steady, determined, not dismissive. Jamie felt a rush of gratitude. This was the engagement she had hoped for. It'll take all of us, Jamie responded, excitement bubbling inside her. I'd love to hear your ideas on what this center should encompass. Art programs? Sports? Education? Let us design it together. She gestured to the stack of blank papers on a table. I have some supplies. If you have ideas, let us map this out. People began to shuffle, creating small groups. Jamie's heart raced as she watched neighbors discuss and collaborate. A few teens even leaned in, ready to share their thoughts. Laughter began to rise, hesitant at first but gaining momentum. It was a live, real conversation, real connection. Then, she noticed a man standing in the back of the room, arms crossed tightly. His expression remained unreadable, like a portrait of disbelief. Jamie hesitated, letting the moment simmer. It was time to face the skepticism head-on. "Sir, I appreciate your silence. Would you like to share your concerns?" she asked him, meeting his gaze directly. For a moment, the room fell quiet, the air crackling with anticipation. He unfolded his arms and took a step forward, his face serious. "I just don't see how we can get this off the ground. No one ever stays interested long enough to make things work around here." The challenge hung heavy between them. Jamie paused, recognizing his vulnerability beneath the hardness. "I understand that fear. Trust me, I've felt it too. But this is different, we're in this together. Change doesn't happen alone, it happens when we support one another." Her words seemed to weigh on him, hovering in the air like a promise. And then, slowly, the corners of his mouth lifted. "Maybe you're right. Maybe it is worth a shot." Cheering erupted around her, a wave of encouragement sweeping the room. Jamie felt her cheeks flush. This was beyond what she had hoped for. Could they really be transforming a mere idea into reality? As the evening continued, plans flowed. Parents jotted down ideas for after-school classes, teens pitched creative workshops, and one older gentleman proposed a garden project. It felt like the cracks in the walls were healing, laughter echoing in the air like music from faded memories. When the meeting wound down, Jamie stood before her neighbors, a mix of disbelief and elation warming her heart. "Thank you for believing in this vision. Together, we'll build something beautiful." She wanted to capture this moment forever, but doubts still threatened like shadows at twilight. What if they lost interest tomorrow? As people began to leave, Jamie noticed a ripple of enthusiasm behind the faces that had once looked at her with skepticism. The woman who had first questioned her approached. "What's the next step? When do we meet again?" "Soon," Jamie responded, her voice steady. "We need to keep the momentum alive. Let us have our first working meeting to start planning in a week." A sense of determination coursed through her veins. This was only the beginning, but she could feel hope pooling like a resource deep within the community. As she closed the door behind the last attendee, Jamie allowed her eyes to linger on the empty room, echoes of laughter still dancing in the air. She had ignited something, but one question loomed: could she keep the fire burning long enough to light the way for others? That thought lingered, as she whispered into the silence, "What if we truly did this?" The week flew by in a blur of busy thoughts and restless nights. Jamie found herself replaying the meeting over and over, the energy of the room wrapping around her like a warm blanket. Yet, beneath the excitement, a gnawing worry kept her tossing and turning. She had lit the spark, but how would she fan the flames? Finally, the day arrived for their first working meeting. Jamie felt the familiar flicker of nerves as she set up the community center room, arranging chairs in a welcoming circle. She smoothed out the papers bearing the ideas from last week, her heart racing with hope. Would everyone show up? As the clock approached 6, people trickled in. The man with the crossed arms was among them, and his presence stirred a mix of apprehension and inspiration within her. He was a reminder that change didn't come easily. With everyone settled, Jamie stood up and addressed the group. "Thank you all for coming tonight. I can feel the energy is still strong, and we're going to make this happen. Let us dive into the details." Their ideas began to flow once again. Each suggestion added another layer to the vision, transforming echoes of possibility into a tangible plan. Someone suggested a mural project, another brought up tutoring programs, while a mother shared the need for cooking classes. As they brainstormed, Jamie felt her confidence swell. This was more than just her dream, it was theirs. She could see it in their faces, the excitement, the camaraderie, each idea representing a piece of their community taking shape. But just as the atmosphere turned jubilant, the man from the back spoke up again, his voice cutting through the warmth. "This all sounds great, but what happens when the first setback hits? We've seen initiatives crash and burn before." A wave of silence fell over the group. Jamie's heart raced, fear creeping back in. She gazed around, watching faces drop slightly at his words. The man was right, this wouldn't be easy. But it would be worth it. "We will face setbacks," Jamie replied steadily, trying to channel the vision she had. But that doesn't mean we should give up. It means we need to band together. If one person stumbles, let us reach out to lift them up. We can learn from each stumble and grow stronger. A few hands shot up. What if we create a support system for each other? Proposed the young woman, eyes sparkling with passion. Like a buddy system. Or a schedule for check-ins? Another voice chimed in. The man nodded slowly, the storm of his skepticism softening. Jamie could see the wheels turning in his head, shifting from doubt to contemplation. The idea of a community rallying around one another had taken root. As discussions picked up again, Jamie felt fortified by their collective energy. They laughed, debated, and sketched out responsibilities. They were more than a group. They were becoming a team. At the close of the meeting, Jamie felt lighter, the fears that had weighed her down beginning to lift. I believe we can do this together, she said, her heart brimming with newfound hope. In just a few short weeks, we'll be making plans into action. As the group broke up, the man approached Jamie. She held her breath, unsure of what to expect. I still have my doubts, he began, his voice lower, but you've given me something to think about. I want to help, even if it doesn't come easy. A rush of warmth spread through her. Thank you. Together, we can make this work, she replied, a sense of triumph bubbling inside her. As they exchanged ideas for their next meeting, she caught sight of the empty room, now lined with hope and possibility. But in the back of her mind, a question began to form: what if overcoming doubt was just about the center, but something much deeper for all of them? With that question lingering, Jamie felt the anticipation prickling her skin. What revelations would come next? As the following week unfolded, Jamie felt a blend of excitement and anxiety simmer in her chest. The community center was now a hotbed of ideas and energy, but with that came the pressure to maintain the momentum. Every night she found herself sketching plans in her notebook, the lines between her dreams and reality becoming increasingly blurred. The day of the next meeting arrived sooner than expected. Jamie took a deep breath as she entered the center, determined to keep the spirit alive. She arrived early, wanting to ensure everything was ready. As she set up, adjusting chairs and laying out snacks, she couldn't shake the thought of the man's voice from last week, the somber reminder that their plans could falter. The clock struck 6, and people started to fill the room again. There was laughter now, light chatter breaking the weight of doubt. The community was building itself, brick by brick, and Jamie felt a thrill surge through her as familiar faces filled the seats. Among them, the man with crossed arms stood at the back, still trying to hide his doubts beneath a cloak of indifference. Welcome back, everyone, Jamie began, her voice steady. I'm so glad you all decided to come again. Let us keep the energy alive and dive deeper into action. As ideas flowed, Jamie could sense a palpable shift in the atmosphere. Hands shot up eagerly. They discussed budgets, responsibilities, and potential partnerships. Jamie felt her spirit lift with every suggestion: the thought of a local bank wanting to sponsor their mural, a chef from the neighborhood offering free cooking classes. They started to paint a picture of unity, and then it happened. While all this is exciting, the man interjected again, what about the people who won't show up? The naysayers? We can't make everyone believe. There will always be critics. His voice was a heavy stone dropped in the vibrant pool of discussion, creating ripples of discomfort. The laughter faded, faces grew serious again. Jamie's heart sank, the fear creeping back in. Why did he always have to bring up the toughest questions? But a small voice piped up from the side. What if we invite them in? Instead of waiting for them to join, we could create a day for discussion, to hear their concerns and show them our vision. A spark ignited in the room. Others began chiming in, building on the idea. Yes. Let us bridge the gap, someone said. Open our doors wider. Make it an event. Jamie couldn't help but smile. This was exactly the spirit she had wanted to cultivate. The doubts were floating away, replaced with solutions. But even as the meeting continued, a shadow lingered at the back of her mind, the unanswered question about why this was personal for her. After the meeting, The man approached her once more, this time his expression softer. I see the energy. I do, he admitted gently. And maybe this community day could be a step toward addressing our fears. Absolutely, Jamie replied, her heart soaring. It can be our chance to connect. As they discussed the logistics, Jamie felt elated. Here was a man who could still hold skepticism but was willing to be part of the solution. They wrapped up their conversation, and as he turned to leave, he glanced back. You might be onto something, and that's enough for now. For the first time, Jamie felt a flicker of hope for change not just in the community, but within each person, including the man who had once represented her own doubts. It felt powerful, but as she tidied up, Jamie couldn't help but wonder what if the real transformation was deeper than projects and meetings. What if, by overcoming their challenges together, they were confronting their own personal ghosts? With that thought swirling in her mind, she stepped outside. The setting sun cast long shadows, and she could almost see the silhouettes of many futures brightening before her. Where would their journey lead next, when pushing through personal barriers might be the key to true unity? As the days turned into nights, anticipation enveloped Jamie. The community day was approaching, and with it, a mix of hope and apprehension brewed like a summer storm. She lay awake at night, dreaming of the event vividly, of laughter mingling with serious conversations, of friendships forming like tendrils of ivy on a sturdy wall. But lurking beneath that vision were shadows of what could go wrong. What if no one came? What if the naysayers drowned out the harmony they had worked so hard to create? The morning of the big day arrived with a crispness to the air, a freshness that made Jamie's heart race. She arrived at the community center early, her feet moving quickly along the empty halls as she set up the space. Tables were adorned with vibrant tablecloths, and posters declaring Community Day flapped gently in the breeze. She felt like a painter, the center her canvas, each detail intentional, each corner filled with possibility. As people started to trickle in, Jamie was filled with both anticipation and fear. Would they embrace the openness she hoped to cultivate? Would the man whose skepticism still echoed in her mind come forward to support the event? With each face she recognized, her heart lifted a little more. They were here, together, united in this space. When the clock struck 11, Jamie took a deep breath and stepped in front of the crowd. Thank you all for coming today. We're here to listen, share, and above all, connect. The air felt electric. People nodded, spurred on by her words. She began the event by encouraging everyone to share their ideas, their fears, and their hopes. A woman named Clara bravely stood up and shared her struggles with feeling excluded from the community she lived in for years. The room erupted with kindness, voices raised in support and understanding. Each story that followed was like a candle lit in a dark room. But then came that familiar voice from the back again, the man with crossed arms. What if this is just a feel-good event? What if we don't really change anything? Change takes action, not just talk, he stated, but there was a slight tremor in his voice this time. Instead of feeling her hopes deflate, Jamie felt a sense of urgency. This is only the beginning, she said, holding his gaze. Today is about opening our lines of communication. If we only talk, we recognize our gaps. Then we can create the actions necessary. Change doesn't happen overnight. A surprising harmony echoed through the crowd as others began to rally around her words. Let us form committees for follow-up, someone suggested. Let us release a community newsletter to keep everyone informed, another added. The man's expression shifted. Jamie noticed a flicker of vulnerability beneath the surface of his tough exterior. As conversations flowed into practical plans, Jamie felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. This wasn't just a gathering, it was a birth of something real, a collective heartbeat of a community coming alive. But as the day wound down, Jamie felt an unease settle back into her heart. She needed to address the underlying issues. How could they expect to move forward while fearing each other's criticisms? Just then, in the midst of laughter and applause, a young girl whispered to her, "What about the people who didn't come today? Are they going to stay mad forever?" That simple question sent chills down Jamie's spine. Suddenly, she understood that unity wasn't just about connection. It was about reaching those who felt unheard, those ghosts they all carried in their lives. What lay ahead for Jamie and her community now felt monumental. How could they extend their hands to those still on the outskirts, those caught in shadows of doubt? And at that moment, an idea began to form, bright and hopeful, asking to be birthed into reality. Would this new initiative bridge divides, or would it create new challenges altogether? Jamie couldn't shake off the weight of that girl's question. The warmth from Community Day was undeniable, but the nagging thought of those who sat on the sidelines lingered in her mind. Over dinner that evening, Jamie replayed the day's events in her head. The joy, the laughter, the promises floating like paper lanterns in the summer sky, all of it felt right. Yet, the shadows remained. She found herself stirring her pasta aimlessly, the steam rising to form a veil over her thoughts. "Mom, are you okay?" her younger brother, Josh, asked, breaking the silence. "Yeah, just thinking," she replied softly. "About Community Day?" he pressed, knowing his sister well. "Sort of. It was amazing, but I can't help but worry about the people who didn't show. They have voices too, but what if they never share them?" Josh shrugged, always simpler in his understanding. "Maybe they just need a reason to. Not everyone likes loud events." His innocence surprised her. "What do you mean?" "I dunno. Sometimes people just want to connect but don't know how to start. Maybe they need a smaller group or something more casual." That small comment sparked something in Jamie's mind. Small gatherings could create the safe space for quieter voices to be heard without the pressure of the crowd. She quickly jotted down ideas on a napkin, her heart racing. This could be the answer. As she worked through the night, her vision grew bolder. A listening circle, she murmured to herself. A safe place where anyone could come, share their truths, and feel valued. It wasn't just about the loudest voices or the biggest events. It was about extending that line of communication, just as she had said that day. The next day, she organized a quick informal meeting with those who had participated in Community Day. She pitched her idea excitedly, her words spilling out with enthusiasm. To her delight, people caught on quickly. Voices chimed in, each adding a sprinkle of inspiration. Clara, the woman who shared her story, excitedly volunteered to help coordinate it. Then, the man with crossed arms, whom Jamie had come to respect for his skepticism, raised his hand. "I'll join." "Maybe I misunderstood," he said with an honesty that made Jamie's heart swell. "Maybe I just need to listen before jumping in." With each new commitment, the team was taking shape. They envisioned a series of small gatherings, cafe meetups, park sit-downs, and even home visits. Jamie imagined the echoes of laughter intertwined with real conversations, each moment bringing the community closer together. Yet something nagged at Jamie. What if those who had felt unheard didn't want anything to do with them? What if she was reaching for a dream, only to find walls built high around the hearts she sought to touch? Determined, Jamie planned to announce the first listening circle at a local coffee shop the following week. She could feel the flutter of nerves in her stomach, an exciting yet daunting challenge to delve into deeper connections. The morning of the announcement, she was filled with both hope and dread. Would this initiative lay the foundation for true unity, or just lead to a new set of challenges? Questions raced through her mind, but one stood out: would people trust them enough to step forward? As she clutched her notes, ready to face the crowd again, she took a deep breath. This was just the beginning of something bigger, and she knew that before long, the whole community would need to confront their fears together. What would happen when they did? Would they unite, or would the cracks widen further? The coffee shop buzzed with the familiar sounds of grinding beans and soft chatter. Jamie stepped inside, her heart beating erratically. She glanced around, sizing up the space. Would this be the sanctuary where voices emerged? It didn't feel like it yet. The tables seemed too far apart, the laughter too loud, drowning out the whisper of her hopes. As she set her notes on the table, she caught sight of Clara walking in, a warm smile lighting up her face. That small gesture eased Jamie's tension just a bit. "Hey! I'm so glad you're here," she said, embracing Clara. "I wouldn't miss it," Clara replied, her enthusiasm infectious. "I've already told a few friends. They're excited." Relief flooded through Jamie, but it was quickly replaced by a fresh wave of nerves. She took a sip of her coffee, its bitterness grounding her. What if her plan turned out to be a flop? What if no one showed up? People began to trickle in. Some familiar faces from Community Day, but many more Jamie didn't recognize. Each person who walked through the door seemed to carry their own stories, their own reasons for coming. Would they be willing to share? The clock ticked closer to the start time. Jay, the man with the crossed arms, arrived and gave a firm nod to Jamie. "I'm here to listen. Let us see what happens." His sincerity reassured her, igniting a spark of confidence. At exactly 5 o'clock, Jamie stood up, clutching her notes, as if they were a lifeline. "Thank you all for coming. This is our first listening circle. The goal is to share thoughts and experiences in a supportive environment," she started, her voice shaky but resolute. "We're all here because we want to connect and understand each other better." A hush fell over the group, and Jamie felt the weight of their attention. She glanced at Clara, who gave her an encouraging smile, and took a breath. "I know it can feel vulnerable sharing our stories. But each one of us has something valuable to contribute." A woman in her 40s shifted in her seat, her hands clasped tightly. "I came here because I've felt alone in this community for years. It's hard to admit, but I often feel invisible." Her voice cracked, and in that moment, Jamie realized that her fears were shared. From there, the floodgates opened. Voices began to weave together, each story more heartfelt than the last. The room filled with shared laughter, the kind that lifts burdens, and a few quiet tears that spoke of shared understanding. As Jamie listened, her heart swelled. She felt the tapestry of connection forming before her eyes. But still, lingering in the back of her mind was a question: would the walls truly come down, or would old patterns of doubt reappear? As the gathering winded down, Jamie asked, "What do you all think? Should we do this again?" The room erupted with eager nods and murmurs of agreement. Hope danced through her. Maybe they really could build something lasting together. Just then, a voice spoke from the back of the room. "I'm glad I came today. But I have to ask, what about those who couldn't make it? How do we reach them?" Jamie's heart sank. That question reverberated through her mind. How could she create a bigger impact? With one simple question, the challenge lay ahead: how to bring more of the community into the fold without losing the intimacy that had just blossomed. As she looked around the room at smiling faces, she couldn't help but wonder, how many more stories were left untold? And what if, in seeking to connect deeper, they risked alienating others? Jamie felt the stirrings of excitement and fear mixed inside her. She had started something, but now it was an open road leading her toward the crossroads of possibility. And the next steps would demand more courage than she had ever summoned before. What was her next move? Could they really build a bridge strong enough for everyone to walk across together? Jamie stood for a moment, the weight of the question hanging in the air like a storm cloud. How do we reach them? It echoed in her mind, stirring something deep within her, a determination wrapped in a thin veil of doubt. Clara leaned in, sensing Jamie's conflict. "You have to keep talking about it, Jamie," she encouraged softly. "Invite them in. Social media, flyers, ask people to bring friends. Make it easy for everyone." Her words were like a soothing balm, yet the challenge loomed ahead. That night, as Jamie lay in bed, she replayed the gathering in her mind. The laughter, the tears, the warmth that had knitted them together. Every story had peeled away another layer of her fear, exposing a raw truth. But the responsibility of expanding this circle weighed heavily on her. Could she truly open up the space without losing its essence? By morning, Jamie had made up her mind. She would call a community meeting. The thought took root in her brain, and excitement began to bloom. She envisioned a gathering larger than the coffee shop, a space where voices could spill into the open air. She grabbed her notebook and began sketching ideas. Community center, she wrote. Outdoor picnic. Ideas flowed, and she felt emboldened with each stroke of the pen. She imagined banners, people sharing food, laughter filling the space, every person a vital chord in the growing symphony of connection. Jamie could feel herself soaring with the possibilities, but a nagging fear tugged at her. What if this was too ambitious? What if the intimacy they had just built shattered under the weight of a larger crowd? But then, she thought of the woman who felt invisible, and the many others who needed a place. Maybe, just maybe, expanding their circle was the answer. With fresh determination, she texted Clara. "Let us meet at the coffee shop again. I have an idea." Jamie felt a rush as she hit send, the thrill of collaboration washing over her. The next day, Clara arrived, her eyes bright with curiosity. "What's brewing in that mind of yours?" she asked playfully. Jamie laid out her vision. Clara's face lit up. "That's brilliant! We could organize it like a potluck. Everyone brings a dish. We set up some chairs outside. I can help with decorations." Their conversation flowed like a beautiful melody, ideas bouncing back and forth, transforming Jamie's initial spark into a full-blown plan. They would coordinate a community potluck, promising everyone a warm welcome, an open heart, and a chance to share their story. Yet as they spoke, Jamie couldn't shake the unease that lurked in the corners of her mind. The more she thought about it, the more she felt the weight of the task ahead. What if they set everything up, and no one showed? That day, she faced another challenge: how to get word out. They created flyers, using bright colors and inviting language. Clara suggested social media posts, and they spent hours crafting the perfect words to articulate their vision. The day of the potluck arrived, and Jamie was a bundle of nerves. She watched the community center fill with families, friends, and strangers. Tension danced in her stomach, threatening to steal her joy. Clara nudged her gently. "Relax. Just be open. It's all about connection." As Jamie moved among the groups, she noticed the laughter, the food being shared, and the conversation sparking to life. Each small story flowed into the next, filling the space with warmth and vibrancy. Then, just when she thought things couldn't get any better, she spotted a familiar face in the crowd. It was the woman from the listening circle, smiling and chatting with another attendee. Jamie's heart swelled. But before she could step over, a loud commotion drew her attention. A man stood up, silencing the crowd with an unexpected announcement. "I've been listening to everyone here, and I have to say I've felt the same way, but I never knew where to find support." He continued, weaving his own story into the fabric of the gathering, igniting an unseen tension in the air. Jamie's heart raced. Was this a turning point, or the beginning of something she hadn't anticipated? A wave of energy surged through the crowd as they engaged in a heartfelt dialogue. Yet Jamie felt the undercurrents of uncertainty. What if this gathering opened doors that led somewhere she wasn't prepared to go? Could she handle the revelations that were surely on the horizon? As she watched the stories unfold, she realized she was standing at the edge of something profound. Would this community find strength in vulnerability, or would the cracks that had long been ignored start to surface? Jamie took a deep breath. The moment felt charged, ripe with potential. She knew that whatever came next, they were crossing a threshold together. What would emerge from this gathering? And would she be ready for the truths waiting to be discovered? Jamie stood at the heart of the community center, surrounded by the cacophony of laughter and chatter. She watched as people mingled, sharing food and stories, their connections deepening like roots in fertile soil. This was what she had hoped for: a space for everyone, where their voices could rise together like the notes of a powerful symphony. But as the man with the bold voice continued to speak, Jamie's heart raced with a mix of anticipation and concern. He spoke of struggles, of missed opportunities, and the loneliness that sometimes crept in even in a bustling community. She felt every word resonate, each story like a thread weaving tighter around their collective experience. Then the unexpected happened. Interjections began to happen, voices concerned about whether inclusivity was merely an illusion, whether the potluck was just a band-aid over deeper wounds. Conversations shifted from sharing joy to confronting hard truths. What if this gathering put the cracks right under the spotlight, shining light on all their hidden struggles? Jamie's heart sank momentarily. She was torn between wanting to uplift the room and fearing what was unraveling. But then she remembered why she started this journey: the people, the connections, the hope for a brighter tomorrow. She stood breathless. We're here because it can be hard, it can be messy, but we're working on it together. Just being in this space means something. It's okay to feel vulnerable, this is where healing starts. Her voice rang loudly through the room, and the energy shifted. She saw smiles and nods of understanding, the tension beginning to ease slightly. The man stepped back, his expression softening. Yeah, you're right. It's about embracing the mess too, isn't it? Nodding, Jamie continued. Every voice matters. And while it's important to face our fears, it's equally vital to celebrate our small victories, to know we can grow together. Her heart swelled as murmurs of agreement cascaded through the crowd, igniting a spark of unity in the air. Then, she saw Clara in the back, ready to support, a look of pride on her face. Jamie smiled at her friend, and spoke once more, her voice stronger. Let us make our gatherings a place for not just addressing the hard stuff but also celebrating each other. Our community is a tapestry, woven from our unique stories. We can lift each other up. People erupted in applause, the air thick with anticipation and relief. The man from the back stepped forward again, rubbing his chin. Maybe we could do it, alternate between the hard discussions and just a fun community night. Balance. Yes. Jamie exclaimed, heart racing. Let us have open meetings for those tough conversations and themed nights for laughter and bonding, too. It can be the best of both worlds. As excitement bubbled, Jamie felt a renewed energy sweeping over the room. A spark had ignited, a possibility starting to take shape. Laughter returned to the forefront, and with it came the promise of connection, of accountability, and pushing through the shadows together. As the gathering came to a close, Jamie stood amidst her community of newfound friends, each face radiating hope. They had not only weathered the storm together but begun to embrace it, each tear, every laugh creating stronger bonds. She realized these moments were the foundation of something bigger. The heart of the community was pulsing vigorously. In the weeks that followed, they transformed the center into a buzzing hub of activity, laughter, and support. They hosted gatherings both serious and lighthearted, tackling hard issues but reveling in joy. Jamie's heart brimmed with pride, seeing kids create art, families come together for game nights, sharing meals that echoed with love, a kaleidoscope of vibrant community life. And as for that man with the once crossed arms, he found his voice through conversations, expressing his own vulnerabilities as he embraced the community in ways Jamie had wished for. Each meeting became less about proving others wrong and more about uplifting one another, about recognizing that their stories connected them rather than divided them. By the time the leaves began to change again, Jamie stared out at the vibrant colors swirling in the breeze, a smile spreading across her face. She had dared to listen to her heart, had forged connections that surpassed all doubts, and together they had built something lasting. Change was never easy, but Jamie discovered that it didn't have to be solitary. They became more than a community, they became a family. Handing out her flyers for the next event with a heart full of excitement and encouragement, she breathed in deeply, filled with gratitude. This was just the beginning, now it's your turn. You need to subscribe now to never miss a story like this again. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Comment below your thoughts and feelings about this inspiring journey. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need a little transformation in their lives. Your action can spark change.